Mahoday, Ramesh ji, Mr. Sudhanshu Vats, my very old, now associate Ashish Kulkarni, friends. Actually, I had two choices. Both my joint secretaries, extremely hardworking, Jaya and Sanjay Murthy, had prepared a very detailed, point-by-point write-up for me. This was supplemented by another write-up by Nina, CEO of NFDC. I'm grateful to all of them for having worked so hard so that I can stand before you. But I have taken a call that whereas I'll use the inputs provided by them as a backgrounder, with your permission, I'd like to say what I really want to say. I also did some homework, took the photocopies of the FICCI 2015 key figures. When I reached the hotel, I found there are 16 figures. Most of you, rather all of you have read them. Maybe a whole lot of you would have been associated in the preparation of those. So there's no point rattling statistics and showing off the pool of information. Let's straight away get to some basic issues. Try to get to some basic issues. I hope you will bear with it. I have been in this job now for almost 6-7 months. But like any citizen, one has dealt with the media for a couple of years. I also had the opportunity of doing this job at state level for 5 years, Rajasthan cadre being my cadre. But at state level, it's mostly the PR part, or at best, liaison with Prasar Bharati, Doordarshan, AIR, or maybe the local correspondents of the news channels. Doesn't go beyond that. When I joined here, I requested Uday Shankar ji and Sudhanshu to, and at times CA was doing the honors, just as Leena has been doing the honors now for many months with all of us, to arrange a small interaction of about 20-25 people, and we all met to talk about media and entertainment sector. There were a lot of questions which were said, no minutes were deliberately made, because everybody was kind of not very sure. And in this space, especially the media space, people who say that they are very sure, they are kind of not understanding what they're really dealing with. The content of media, especially the news content, self-regulation versus regulation, government regulation. After that, I started a series of meetings with my own colleagues in the ministry. And I broadly told them 2-3 things. And in that, I had the broad kind of endorsement from the political leadership. A, most important, from day-to-day working point of view, that they should, if not altogether stop, because that will make them very lonely, the joint secretaries, almost stop bring the number of visitors to Shastri Bhavan to a trickle. This was not greeted very, everybody was skeptical about it. I can't say we have fully succeeded, but we are moving very briskly in that direction. B, go towards, as much as possible, towards less regulation and more kind of encourage the industry bodies to do more auto-regulation wherever required. After all, they are very seasoned, mature people, and they would have the interests of country as much in their mind as any Shastri Bhavan. C, make India the hub of investment. We started with films, and a little bit of printing is always good for everybody's health. So first thing we tried to do was, after a meeting in Goa, when on the sidelines of FICCI, we had about 3 hours interaction, me and my colleague from tourism, with some of the most iconic directors in this country. Ramesh ji was there, Shyam Benegal ji was there, Prakash Jha ji was there, Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra was there. So many people. As to why should more films not be shot in India? And even within India, why should shooting procedures not be easier? The opening statement was given by Mr. Shyam Benegal. You were mostly listeners, the bureaucracy part. That we are ourselves very committed people in our lives. If we do not damage the environment in any way, do not damage the any heritage monument, and there are no security implications of border areas and other sensitivities, then why doesn't the government leave us alone and let us do our work? That set the tone, if you recall, Ramesh ji, for the discussions. The discussion was for good 2 hours. And the outcome of this discussion was twofold. A, it was decided to set up a film felicitation office housed in National Film Development Corporation, which would kind of be a storehouse, a single-stop storehouse for expediting clearances. B, to encourage the states and union territories, a new award was instituted, Most Film-Friendly State, which I'm glad to report to you, would be, the first award would be awarded this time in May, along with the National Film Awards. A special jury, different jury was constituted for that, and they have given the report in which they have adjudged Gujarat as the most film-friendly state of the current year, and also adjudged Kerala and UP as the next film-friendly states. So all these awards will be given this year. Second, we have such a rich heritage. So we started very doggedly working on this National Film Archives. We have a planned project worth about 598 crores to be spent in 5 years, 1,000 feature films and 1,000 feature and non-feature films to be curated, stored, restored, digitized. I don't know how many, I mean, you're all very, very knowledgeable people, but in February, thanks to the officials of National Film Archives and Shvendra Singh Dungarpur, with a lot of support from Viacom 18, we had a 10-day, very serious seminar in Pune. And who are the participants? David Walsh, who is the head of Technical Commission of Federation of Film Archives, FIAF. We had Richard Wright, who did everything which was required to be done for restoration of BBC archives. I'm just reading some of the names. We had Thelma Ross, we had Spencer Cristiano, we had Nancy Kaufman, we had Tina Meller, Benjamin Tucker. We had 12 to 15 such people who kept on coming and going, but they were never less than 8 or 9 who stayed there for full 10 days, ladies and gentlemen. And they were teaching, interacting with our amateurs and professionals to be on film archiving, on curation, digitization. Now I leave it to Uday as to why this was not covered in the media the way it should have been. When I went there, we spent about 3 hours together. And I said during next year at the formal function, Mr. Kamal Hassan ji was our chief guest. I said pilgrimage is not always going to Varanasi or going to Amritsar or going to any holy town for that matter. Pilgrimage is coming here. If these people from all parts of the globe think India to be a place where they would like to spend 10 full days and interact with our students and our professionals and amateurs, then surely India as a media and entertainment destination has arrived, in a manner of speaking. And I'm glad to report to you that this project has already been cleared. It has passed all the bureaucratic steeplechase hurdles. International consultants have been appointed, and it is already kick-starting. And hopefully, this will be a very big step in the direction of preserving our heritage. Next thing which we have been doing with FICCI and with Mr. Kulkarni, it took us some time because we are formally setting up our National Center of Excellence Animation, VFX, and Gaming of Comics. Some excellent presentations were made by FICCI and by Mr. Kulkarni's outfit. And finally, it has been cleared. Government of Maharashtra is sitting here in Mumbai. They have agreed to provide us 25 acres of land somewhere around Film City. Cost will be around 160 crores. And we are off to a good start. Another thing which is happening here only in Mumbai is the National Film Museum. That is on Pedder Road. There will be two parts of it. One is that iconic 100-year-old building, Gulshan Mahal, has already been curated. National Science Museum, Calcutta, who have done some of the best museums in the country, are the agency. Along with Gulshan Mahal is a 5-story building, including 2 mezzanine floors, which is being constructed by Shapur Polanji on behalf of National NBCC Building Corporation. And they have handed us over this building yesterday, 31st March. They were saying we'll hand over on the 1st April. I said, why not 31st March? It doesn't have any pejorative connotation, handing it over on 1st April. So they have done it. And now the National Science Museum people are going to kind of develop it. They are asking for some more time. We are trying to persuade Department of Culture, Ministry of Culture to telescope the time. But that museum, I want to report to you that Honorable Prime Minister himself took a presentation of that about a month after I joined. And he showed such keen and deep interest in all aspects of museum building that we were kind of, all of us were very, very, we did a lot of sums again, recalibrated, and tried to widen the kind of scope of work in sync with the overall vision in the country. These are the things which, on the film side, we have been trying to do a bit. On the TV side, one of the major issues which he had brought to my notice was clearances. Clearances, not just because of INB, because they come from several quarters, this ministry, that ministry, and all that, and especially the quote-unquote security clearance. Then I went to my colleague and senior, who has been my senior in Rajasthan also, the current Home Secretary. We had 2 meetings, and I am glad to report to you that in about 6 months, there's no need of rattling of statistics, but we have done more clearances of all kinds than was possible in the past almost 3 years, because the Home Ministry has kind of really agreed to do a lot of kind of liberalization and speed up things on that side. And within our ministry, we are far too happy the day we get the clearances. We kind of try and clear everything at the bureaucratic and political level in the next 3-4 days. And I can only assure you that this is only a process forward, not process backward. And we shall go out all out to ensure that this process is carried towards logical conclusion, which means the timings are reduced and telescoped further. We also have, by the way, a photo division where some of you could take interest because we already have more than 10 lakh digital images going back to the last 60 years. And if somebody in the industry also displays some interest, this invaluable kind of heritage can be taken forward. And we are now going to create a permanent national photo gallery in Delhi itself. We've got all the sanctions for that. In NFDC, we had a series of problems. NFDC doesn't need any introduction. They had given a startup to some of the most iconic directors of today. In between, there are some bureaucratic issues. I'm glad to report to you they have been resolved. And NFDC will be back in action very, very soon. In fact, in this year's national awards, they are somehow or the other associated with 3 award-winning entries. Now coming to the part of making it international hub. What are the worrying spots? I think one of the worrying spots is that our theatre density leaves a lot to be desired. Just about 8,000 to 8,200 theatres throughout the country, including multiplexes. And that's a worrying spot for all of us in this room, not just for the government, not just for the industry. B, we were all waiting for the GST because GST would automatically result in number of rationalization in terms of taxes. Let's hope that we cross that bridge soon so that there is a rationalization as far as the tax platforms are concerned. C, we are totally committed to digitization. By the way, even as I am speaking today, some of the cable associations from various parts of the country, when we stopped to give the 3rd extension after 31st December 2016, they obtained stay orders from some high courts. We have gone to the Honorable Supreme Court to club all these litigations. And as I said, as I am speaking today, the matter is listed today. And yesterday itself, even after landing, one was in touch with the Honorable Solicitor General just to see that this process does not stop. But having said that, have you sometimes wondered why we are making so few set-up boxes? Just not even 10% of our requirement, or maybe 12% of our requirement, and everything is coming from somewhere abroad. So we went to our cabinet secretary and we made a request to them that set-up boxes should be taken as an important vertical of the electronics industry Make in India, Startup India program. They have agreed, but in this, the industry has to play a far, far larger role. We are working now on the community radio. We just had an All India Community Radio 3-day workshop, very vibrant, very lively, at times very angry, nice, good of that. We did our FM auctions last year. My colleagues, my predecessor, Mr. Julka, and the then Joint Secretary, they were largely responsible for it, Puneet Kansal. We are trying to learn something from those learnings in terms of lock-in periods, reserve price, and we should soon be going to Cabinet with a set of new proposals based on those learnings for the next phase of the FM radio auctions. We're also very concerned whether on the viability of the industry, especially the viability of standalone news channels. And if I say I have any ready-made solutions, we can have instant solutions, we can have instant coffee, but not instant solutions. But solutions will have to be found, because at the moment, till there are very big houses who can cross-subsidize the loss-making channels, the standalone channels, hardly, including even entertainment channels, do not seem to be kind of in the pink of financial health as they ought to be. That's another issue which maybe we could discuss. On the content side, the less said, the better. I would just say that on the news side, I would cite 4 or 5 instances and leave the judgment to the audience. The coverage of 9/11 in New York, the coverage of hijacking of Indian aircraft in 1999, the coverage of Bhuj earthquake in Gujarat, the coverage of the recent tragic incidents in Germany, in Brussels, various parts of the world, and the coverage of some attacks across the border in our country. I am not not being judgmental. Why should I be? All of you are such senior people and very, very, very cerebral people. Without saying a word, I am leaving the comparison of these respective coverages to this distinguished audience. Only one thing I still remember of 9/11, that after 48 hours, when Mayor Gilani took his first press conference in New York, somebody said, well, sir, what about the fatalities? His one sentence reply was, I am afraid that number is going to be much higher than we initially estimated. There was no second question. There was no third question. So that part I am leaving to you. The content on entertainment, well, that is between the audience and the channels. So I don't think except there is a content code in relation to coverage of crimes against women, gender crimes, crimes relating to rapes, vulgarity, etc., etc. There are industry bodies headed by retired Supreme Court judges. There is a press council headed by a retired Supreme Court judge on the news side, and on the content side also, there are industry bodies. But ultimately, it depends on what kind of audience a channel addresses, what's the niche audience, and it's between the channel and the audience. There was a time when media and entertainment space was kind of, I was just reading this book by Zora Segalji about, and it's kind of, at one level, it's a treat to read, very inspiring. At one level, it also feels that how the country was treating the people in this industry and all those associated with it. It's a detailed story about how Prithvi Theatre started, how they went from district to district, and how one kind of encounters they faced, difficulties they faced, and a kind of small, tight budgets on which they operated. There used to be an old couplet that Kadarda कीमते बाजार से आगे ना बढ़े, फन की दहलीज पे फनकार ने दम तोड़ दिया. So those are the times. Those times have long since gone. I mean, the good of those times should remain with us. We should learn from good of those times. But the overall societal condescension of media and entertainment, that's long since gone. That's a good thing. And we only have to look towards the future. And we all have to work together. This is not a versus debate. This is a together debate. And I'm sure that if we work together, we progress together. Thank you.